Good morning. Have you ever wondered why sometimes you might have old programs or patterns or that sort of thing, and they're really hard to get rid of? Like you have worked on them for years or decades, and you've, cleared layer after layer after layer, and you still find that they're stuck somehow. Like every time you think you're free, suddenly you're back there. Well, there's a really simple explanation for that. And it's something that's so important for us to know. What happens is that up until the age of somewhere between 5 and 7, children live in essentially a hypnotic state. So everything that they're exposed to, everything that they take in, goes directly into the subconscious. There's no conscious reframing or interpreting or understanding or any of that that's going on. It goes directly into the body, directly into the subconscious, and becomes the programs that we understand life works by, and our family works by, and we work by. Like it gives us our sense of identity at that very young age. Now think about how we treat young people and how we interact with young people. We tend to expect them to think cognitively. We expect them to be able to understand things that they are really literally in no way able to understand. They do not have the mental processing that allows that to happen. So instead, when we think maybe we're just teaching them a lesson or, trying to show them how to be in the world or whatever it is that we're doing, they don't take it that way. They just think this is reality. They don't hear, for instance, that's not a good thing to do because it's, potentially harmful to you or your sister or whatever. What they hear is, you are bad, unless we're very careful. They hear, I am a bad person. I am unworthy of love and kindness. And things along that line. What a responsibility, right? This is why conscious parenting is so important. If you don't want to dump all your crap on your kids, right? We have to be really conscious. And it's not only for our own kids, like, or even our own grandkids, but for nieces and nephews, for neighbor kids, friends' kids, kids we run into in a grocery store, like whatever. We have that opportunity to influence their entire lives for better or worse. Yeah, like that's a lot. And at the same time, it's an incredible opportunity. I love to use whatever opportunities I have interacting with children to bolster their sense of the world as a beautiful and wonderful and kind place, and themselves as strong and intelligent and funny and kind. And I make a point, this is just sort of an aside, but one of my pet projects, I guess, is to I try not to tell little girls that they're pretty or, how lovely their dress is or something, because they get tons of that. They get far more than they need of that in the world, even though they're super cute sometimes, and it's really hard not to say, oh my God, you are so adorable. I really look hard for what I can tell them about themselves in a deeper level that can support them in a good way. For instance, I was at a swimming pool once, and there was this little kid, looked like Cindy Lou Who, splashing around. Her mom's trying to teach her to swim. And she's like splashing madly and doing a terrible job, frankly. But I said to her, "Wow, look at you go. You are a great swimmer, huh?" And she just lit up like a floodlight. She was just glowing and grinning like crazy, and her eyes were so alive. And she just worked so hard at swimming that day. And she kept looking over at me and smiling and, waiting to see if I saw how good she was swimming. And it was really lovely. And I find that a lot, when you can tell a little kid, and especially a little girl, because they so often get recognized for their looks more than anything else. Boys are told they're strong, and girls are told they're cute or pretty. So I try to look for something a little deeper and reflect that in them as well. I like to reflect the strength in girls and the kindness in boys, because I think, that I'm just sort of making up for what the world is giving them. Give it a little balance there. And that kind of thing at a young age goes really deeply into them and affects how they see themselves. That little girl is going to be a good swimmer now, She's not going to give up because she already thinks she's a good swimmer. I had a friend who was a professional singer, and when she was young, she was, what they call tone deaf. There's no such thing as tone deaf. But she couldn't sing. She couldn't carry a tune. And she was blessed, she said, in that nobody ever told her that she couldn't. And so she always thought she could sing. So she just kept singing. And eventually, like any skill, she got better at it. I don't know why we assume that kids are either born singing and for that matter, being able to draw or any creative task, or they're not. Like, if you can't do it at a concert level when you're 2, give it up kind of thing. Why don't we teach kids to draw? Why don't we teach kids the same way we teach them math or printing? So she never was told that she couldn't sing, and she grew up being a very, she's got several albums out. She works in musical theater. She's, worked in, sang professionally for many years. What a gift it was that people encouraged that in her instead of saying, "Oh my God, can you be quiet? That's really painful." So when you look at it like that, the struggles that you're having in your own life, the patterns that keep repeating, even though you've done so much work, here's a reason to have a little bit of compassion for that and a little bit of understanding. It's programmed so deeply that it is hard to shift. And it's not impossible. There are ways to do it. We have to find ways that work with the subconscious. Counseling and that kind of thing can be very helpful, particularly in the early stages. But there comes a point where it's not going to take you any further. It's not designed to take you further because it works with the head. And at some point, we're dealing with what's imprinted in the body. And that's pretty much why I gave up counseling. I studied to be a counselor, and I realized that it can only take you part way. And then where's the rest? Like, how do you get from, okay, I know these things now, and I'm not quite at the mercy of them in the way I used to be, but I'm still not functional or happy or whatever. There's that big gap. And so I became really fascinated about what bridges that gap. That's, to me, the PowerPoint. Or you can't even say that anymore. It means something else. But that's the place where transformation is really vital, and there's a lack in the world of understanding of how to bridge that. At least there was when I was studying. It's become, we have a lot more tools now, like EFT tapping is really effective for that. Hypnotherapy done by a really good, there are good and bad of everything, but a really good hypnotherapist can accomplish a lot. And a lot of spiritual practices. Eventually, I think just enough spiritual development lifts us over those places, but they can be very, very gradual, and we want faster versions. So, I have a ton of tools for this, but it's not the kind of thing I can share. What I will share is that they're out there. And there are so many ways now to help us break down those old contracts and those old programs and free ourselves to greater levels of functioning and fulfillment and joy and success. All the things that we wish for, peace and love and all the good stuff in life. So I think that's probably all I need to share with that, about that at the moment. I'm hoping that it will bring you a little bit more understanding of why those are so hard and persistent, and a little bit more compassion for yourself, because you really are working hard and you really are doing your best, and it's not a flaw in you that some things are programmed so deeply that it's, it takes a lot and takes some focused work to get them out. You're doing great. We just got to keep going, and we just got to celebrate our successes, because if you look back to where you were even 5 years ago, I bet you can see a huge change in yourself. And if you ran into someone who knew you back then, I'm pretty sure they would say, can you imagine what they would say? How they would see you differently. So let's celebrate that. Let's celebrate how far we've come. That could be our practice for today, because celebration is also a practice, especially in a culture that's so joy deprived. We are, the culture itself is so ego-based that we look for problems and we think we're not doing things right unless we see the problems. But it's so valuable to celebrate and enjoy and appreciate life. That's the source of gratitude. And gratitude is the best prayer and the most potent intention we can do. So let's make that our practice for today. Let's see if we can't celebrate how far we've come and give some love and compassion to that little self inside of us and our hearts that are trying so hard, and appreciation for our bodies that are working so hard for us all the time, no matter all the junk we throw at them and all the ignoring and the we treat them like we wouldn't treat a dog. So let's see if we can't bring some love for ourselves today, and even just to hold your hand on your heart and say, I love you. I love you. I love you, heart. I love you, body. I love you, fill in your name here. That is an incredibly beneficial practice and goes a long way to undoing those earliest programs. All right, so that's all for today, and please let me know how it goes in the comment section below, and any insights that you got from today's talk or from doing the practice yourself or whatever. And I wish you the most joyous day celebrating the wonder of who you really are and how well you're actually doing. You are doing really well. I know it, you wouldn't be here. So have a beautiful day, and I'll talk to you then. Blessed be.